Go ahead. I'll just edit it out.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Camille and I'm officially an occupational therapist. I passed my board exam on September 13th, I believe. But I want to go ahead and share with you guys what I did. Hopefully it can go ahead and help you guys out. These books are basically what I used, and hopefully that these tips can help you successfully pass the NBCOT. Okay, so after my 12-week rotation, I went ahead and took a week off, and that's when I organized all of my notes and all the books I compiled together, so that way coming to the following week, I was ready and prepared to study for the exam. So this is how I kind of planned out how my week went. So every Sunday, I actually started off with this book right here. And this is the main book that you're going to be using for your study material. This is the Therapy Ed 7th edition. I'm not sure if by the time that you watch this video, if you're going to have the 8th edition or even be fine. So opening up the book, I went straight to the table of contents and I'll show you right here. Is it focused? So there are about 16 chapters, and each chapter, of course, is going to vary in length. So each day I did pretty much 1 or 2 chapters a day. Sometimes I would only go over like half a chapter depending on how long it took me. So every Sunday I would write out per day which chapters I would be studying. So it took me about 2 weeks to complete all the material in the book. That's just because I started off with studying for about 6 to 7 hours per day. And then after, let's see, so after the end of the week, I went ahead and reviewed all of my notes that I wrote down from this book. And then every Sunday, I would go ahead and choose the chapters that I would be studying for the following week. Okay, let's look for that one. Okay, so in the therapy book also, at the end...
Okay, go.
Okay. So at the end of this book, there are 3 practice exams. I took all 3 of them, and my percentages for each one actually ranged from the high 50s to the low 60s. But I was kind of scared going into that, you know, why did I get a low score at first? But after taking the NBCOT, these questions are a lot harder than what was actually on the exam. I feel like these questions are purposely supposed to be a lot harder, so that way you can point out the key words to look for in the question. So when you do take the exam, it's going to be a little bit easier. That's just through my perspective, but of course everyone is different. So in conjunction with this book, the Therapy Ed book, I actually asked my clinical instructor for any other supplemental books that would benefit me for studying for the exam. So while I was going through each chapter in this book, I used this one, which is the Occupational Therapy Course Manual. And if you kind of go through it, it'll go line up with the chapters in the Therapy Ed book, and it'll pretty much give you an overview for what topics that you should pay more attention to. I mean, essentially all of the material in here is going to be important, but this one is kind of more of an outline of the key points that you should remember or pay more attention to while you're studying. And I did find this very helpful. And then while going through each key point here, I used a notebook. Everyone is going to be different with their form of studying. I'm more of a kinesthetic and visual learner, so I prefer writing notes in a notebook, and I would write the title of the topic and then write the bullet points after that. So every morning I would go back to the previous day and just glance over very quickly of everything that I went through the previous day. And trust me, I took this notebook with me everywhere. I even studied on the Stairmaster, or when I was stretching or waiting between sets during exercise, I was like glancing and reading these. And I went ahead and wrote down the topic as well as the key points that you should be focusing on. Also the keywords, so that way my memory would go ahead and remember, like, oh, okay, so for that topic, these are going to be the main components for them. I eventually ran out of space and have more paper here, as you can see. So I took pretty much all of my notes with me, even on like the days that I didn't study. So any downtime that I had, if I was at a cafe. So additional to the therapy ed book, I also used this one, which is the Caryn Johnson book. And then the questions in here, there are, I believe, there are 3 exams in here also. But what I really like about this book is that it'll provide you at the end of each exam what the correct answer is and what the rationale is also. So I would recommend, regardless if you got the question right or wrong, you should read the rationale regardless. And then you're going to go ahead and find a common trend in what topics that you are getting more incorrect questions in. So that way you can go ahead and review those topics again in the therapy ed book. And then that's what helped me. Okay, and then the last book that I went ahead and used, I actually used this one probably a week before my exam. And this one is called The Official NBCOT Study Guide for the OTR Certification Examination, the 3rd edition. I believe there's also the online version, but this is the one that my clinical instructor provided for me. This one unfortunately does not have the rationales, but it does, I would say not mimic, but closely relate to the questions that are actually on the exam. Unfortunately, I can't share with you that information because it is confidential, but I would recommend that after you go over all of the material, that you go ahead and either purchase this book or use the online version. But it is optional. I mean, if it's just additional practice, but I found that it helped better prepare me.
Ready.
Okay, so I just want to describe to you what a typical day for me was like for, I would say, 7 weeks in preparation for the exam. So I would study from Monday through Saturday typically, and each day I would wake up at around 5:30 or 6 in the morning. But you have to find the time where you're going to have the most energy and where you find yourself to be the most efficient. I am a morning person, so I would prefer doing most of my work from, during the daytime. So I would wake up at 6, I would review the notes that I previously studied from the day before, and then I would start off from whatever I had going on for that day. So whatever chapter I was focusing on, that's what I would do for the next couple of hours that morning. And I went in increments of per hour. So each hour that I studied, I would take about a 5 or 10 minute break. And after about 3 hours, I would take either a 1 hour break, sometimes a 2 hour break. I would either go and exercise or cook food or clean something that's going to be beneficial on your behalf. That's going to provide you with more energy so that you can sustain the rest of your studying hours. And then after that, for the rest of the afternoon, for about 4 hours, I believe, is when I would finish off the rest of the material that I had planned out for that day. After studying, I would go ahead and walk for about 3 or 4 miles. That's just a way for me to de-stress and kind of take my mind off of whatever I was studying. And after that, I would go ahead and review, even for just an hour before I went to bed, the material that I did study for that day, if that makes sense. But everyone is going to be different. I just require a little bit more time in absorbing material. So some people, it's going to take them only 6 weeks, some people even longer to study for the exam. Something that I would recommend is after completing the therapy ed book, go ahead and schedule your exam 4 weeks out to the testing date. This way you're going to give yourself enough time and kind of gives you a little bit more pressure to stay on top of your studying material and pretty much execute each day that you had planned for studying. Okay, so after completing the therapy ed book, I went ahead and did a practice exam every Saturday or Friday of the week. So I would go ahead and study the topics that I found that I needed a little bit more emphasis on. I was either getting the questions incorrect, but a good way to analyze which sections that you are a little bit weaker in is only by taking the practice exams. So I did, let's see, probably about, so there's 3 in here, there's 1 in here, so seven exams total. And then, just going over the questions maybe over again, even if you already answered them, does get you a little bit more familiarized with how the testing is like. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, so just some things to keep in mind. It's very important that these, 6 to 8 weeks, however long it takes you to prepare for the exam, you eliminate the distractions that you typically say yes to. So for some, that's social media, going out. I mean, I did go out sometimes on the weekends, but it would only be for like an hour or 2. But other than that, I was, this was pretty much my life for like the 7 weeks that I prepared for the exam. Just think of it as something that's going to be temporary. It's going to benefit you in the long run. You're going to feel more confident going into the exam because you did, prepare very well for it and you gave it your all. So I just want to go ahead and want to thank you for watching, and hopefully that whatever I used to pass the exam can go ahead and benefit you as well.